Thank you so much for clicking the thumbnail and being interested in my work. In this video I share with you my techniques and tips on how I achieved this pastel painting of a chimpanzee. Be sure to watch it right through to the end, because here and there I'll be slowing things down so you can take a closer look. So let's dive in and take a look. This is where we left it in part 2. Right, so continuing now with the body of the chimpanzee to start with. Just using these colours here for the underdrawing again. Just to recap on the procedure, what I'm doing here is just mapping out with the white, getting the areas in there, just blocking out. Not really concerned with too much detail, just going with the flow of it, keeping the image reasonably small so you can see the whole of the subject, and just going with the flow. Just enjoy the process, don't get too wrapped up in too much detail at this stage, and just flow with it. So that's completed that, and so before I start putting the rich colours on, I've decided to get the background in, so it gives me more ideas then of the correct value then for the fur. So these are the Demystify pencils I'm using. They're quite rich and fresh, and I've got a collection of the other ones you saw earlier. So it's just a case of really blocking in again, the same sort of procedure, just using your white to get the area, and then just going in straight with the colour where it's not too light. Just to repeat the tip I gave in part 2, that when you're actually doing the background, it's a good idea to actually use a grey and mix that in with it, because it really makes the colours recede and it gives that air of atmosphere to it as well. So rather than using white to line it up, use a grey and then just glaze over them with primary colours if needed, or in this case I've used burnt sienna instead of the red, but I'm using the ultramarine blue and the lemon yellow, so I'm using that as a primary over top of the colours that are similar colour, so you're getting that real subtlety then of blends. After the background, I decided to actually continue with the underdrawing and complete the whole of the chimp, so I get a better idea of values and that and balance before I start putting in those rich colours. So starting in really trying to get them the depth of the black, so I'm using the Demystify black, which is a lot deeper than the Carbothello black, so I'm using a combination of the two blacks to get that depth, mixing in blue, sometimes brown. You have to experiment with the shadows to see what works. The paper I'm leaning on is a piece of glassine paper, which is really handy if you've done all the finished work underneath and you don't want to disturb it. I suggest buying a piece of glassine paper. I've put a link in the description below if you're wanting to find out where you can get that from. What I'm using is the white to get the direction of the fur, and then just glaze over with blue, sometimes alizarin crimson as well, to get that sort of purpley colour. It's a case of playing about with these things. Just slowing things down a little now so you can actually see each pencil as I use it on this section. So it's just going with the flow, open the heart, let go of the mind, so don't try and think about it too much, because if you try and think about it, it will cause stress. So to keep relaxed, just open the heart, just go with the flow, and try and keep as close as you can to what the reference image, because that will help to keep relaxed. Because if you try and randomly just put marks anywhere, it will eventually stress you out because you can't follow anything. So if you just keep an idea that you want it similar, it will keep you relaxed, so you've got something to refer to. So I just try and go as close as I can. As you can see, it's not as detailed as the photograph, the reference photograph, but it's my interpretation of it. So I'm just flowing with it. I'm not too concerned of getting it perfectly the same as what the reference is. It's because art is more than just trying to make a photographic reproduction of it. You might as well just have it one blown up and put on canvas. It's your interpretation of it. So I get as close as I can, but it's all about, for me it's all about feeling, getting the energy and the atmosphere. That's what I look for. If you're enjoying this video, why not subscribe? It's absolutely free, and then you're sure not to miss any of my future videos. So really all it is, the technique is backwards and forwards, is putting the white in, glazing over, putting the white in, glazing over, until you get the colour you're looking for. That's the only way I can describe it really. I'm using the burnt sienna and lemon yellow because it's like a golden shine to it in areas, and also using brown and blue because they make really nice greys when they're mixed together. Rather than using black in this instant, I'm using brown and blue, makes it more subtler. It's very hard to mix a deep black with brown and blue, so I have to use black when it's really deep shadows, but always mix a little bit of colour in with it, either purple, blue or brown, or sometimes green as well. You just have to work it out what it feels like and then just change accordingly. This painting will actually be re-edited as a 4-hour video, which will be at some point on my Patreon page, and it'll be a lot slower and more in depth as well. So if you want to check that out, if you would like to support me and my art, please join me on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Now my colour theory is that there's a cold blue, warm blue, cold red, warm red, cold yellow, warm yellow. So you have to decide what's blues. There's a cold blue, which is more of the ultramarine, and then there's the actual, like a kingfisher blue, which is more turquoisey, which has got a bit of yellow in it, so that's a warm blue. So it's just a case of glazing with one or the other. If you're getting value from this video, why not give it a like and share it with your friends? It would mean so much to me, as this will help the channel to grow. Time now to do the branch. So here's the colours I'm using for that. Always keep the underdrawing quite loose and not too saturated with pigment. Reason being is then I can use the actual pastel mat, the surface I'm using, to create texture. But if you put too much pigment in there too soon, it makes it difficult later. Even though I'm not putting exactly the same as what the branch is, the texture, I'm getting as close as I can, because this will help me to keep relaxed. Because if you don't do that, you get lost in the pattern, and then things get a little bit, you don't enjoy it so much. So if you try and get as close as you can, it will keep you more balanced when you're doing the rich colours. So I'll start off, when I start doing the rich colours, is putting the white in, the whitest areas in and the darkest areas in, and then it gives you more of an idea then where the other values lie. So it's just a case of putting in the darks and lights, and in this case what I'm doing, I'm using a green and glazing over with a green, and then I'm subtling that green up by putting a bit of burnt sienna to make it more mossy type colour, and then changing it blue to make it more of a sharper green, or maybe adding a bit of lemon yellow. So basically I'm using a colour which is similar, so a green which is similar colour, and then subtling it up by adding the primary colours, just glazing over the top. So use a similar colour first and then just subtle it up by using ultramarine blue, and in this case I'm using burnt sienna for the red, and then lemon yellow for the yellow. Right, slowing things down now so you can actually see each pencil as I use it in this section. So what I'm doing is using the white just to get that highlight, then going around with the brown and sometimes black, it depends on what depth I need for the shadow, and then glazing over, or marking in this instant with the yellow, lemon yellow. But it's a case of playing and trying different things, and then just glaze over the top with certain colours and try and get that sort of feel you want by just glazing these different combinations. Now every painting has its own problems, but I don't see it as problems. I say to myself, there's no problems, only solutions. So you have to find the solution to what you're faced with, and it's a case of play and trying different things. Every painting I try things differently. I ain't got a sort of a magic formula. It's just a case that you have to keep experimenting and trying. There's certain things I do, like I just use the white and then darks and then glaze with the primary colours and secondary colours to actually subtle it down, but sometimes you don't necessarily use the secondary colours. You can use the black in this instance with the branch. So you have to keep playing and trying. That's the only way we grow, really. To see the values, and I use a system of 9 values, 4 lights, 4 darks and 1 mid-tone, is to squint the eyes and keep an open vision of the whole image. So you squint your eyes but be aware of everything else, and that helps you to get the balance of the shade and the colour then, because you can compare with different areas. A little tip with the shadows as well is that when you're working from a photograph, the shadows tend to be too dark. In real life there's more subtleties in the shadow areas, so you need to really sort of enhance that more, because when you put the black in, things just look flat. So you have to mix different subtleties. So what I do with the black areas, I'm either mixing a cold red, a warm red, or maybe greens and blues. So it's a case of experimenting and seeing what works in these deep shadows, especially in this area here. So yeah, I had to put a brown and just use like a red in some instance as well, and just to get that sort of difference between cold and warm. So using blues to get that cold feeling in the shadow, or the warm feeling I use in the reds, but mixing with the black. Sometimes you use a cold red, sometimes a warm red, so you have to work out what is needed, but that's what I've actually done here to get that sort of feeling of depth. For longer, slower and more in-depth videos, please join me on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Right, so this is how it turned out. This is a finished work. It's in perspective because it's on the easel, so what I've done, I've given you a shot now of the actual painting full on, so this is at the correct angle and not in perspective. Thank you for watching the video right through to the end. If you found value in it and you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Appreciate it, would help the channel. Leave a comment and a message in the comments below. Let me know what sort of videos you want me to produce. I've actually left a couple of links here for you to click on, and to subscribe, click on the circle here. It's absolutely free, and then you're sure not to miss any of my future videos. Thank you so much, take care and be well.